Right, welcome once again. Our next speaker is Danie Roux. He's going to speak to us about flow and flow philosophy. Danie Roux is an independent consultant. He consults on the why and the how of value creation. He is interested in being interested. Please just welcome Danie Roux.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. That is a photo of me. That is a photo of me strangling a cat. My predilections to strangle cats started early. I am now a consultant. I now do my best to herd all the cats into a direction. And I have learned that this is not easy. It's not something you should do. What you should do instead is help the cats understand what is a better mindset to have about value, the flow of value, the flow of work. This talk is about that. This talk is about what are these big 5 things that I think everyone should at least acknowledge exists. So through this talk we will go through the big 5. And I will map animals to a mindset. And then by the end of this talk, I hope you have the understanding of what's the language you use when you are in a mindset that I don't think is useful, and the language you would use when you're in a mindset that I do think is useful. And every single time you have a, what you feel, silly argument about work and the way in which work gets done, ask yourself, from which mindset are we having this conversation right now? From which mindset are we making decisions now? The fifth mindset, if you want to call it that, is what is called the SPY model, which is something Kevin and I extracted from the work we did. We will not cover a lot of time on it, and it will become important. Right. I just had a conversation in the fishbowl with somebody that said, all you need to do is you need to sit down the BA, think very hard, help them think very, very hard. That's all they need to do. Put them in a corner, think very hard. They will come up with all the requirements. Okay, so you're all laughing, so at least none of you are agreeing with that. Okay? So what is the mindset behind a statement like all you need to do is think very, very hard? The mindset behind that is the system has low variability. All we need to do is think very hard. We can find all the variables, we can fix all the variables, and we can find the exact solution for the exact problem that were presented to us. That is not a useful mindset. People that say all we need to do is think very hard, all you need to do is spend more time analyzing, all you need to do is just work harder at this problem, that is the language of a low variability mindset. That's sometimes a useful mindset if you're working in the construction industry where things are actually lowly variable. You do a sort of a wall and you know when you're done with the wall. When you're doing software, when you're doing sort of information work, it's not going to work. So think of those things as find the high variable mindsets and play there. The reason why I chose the buffalo for that, did you know that a buffalo is the most inquisitive of the big 5? Also a little trick, the question mark of the buffalo warns. Have that mindset, start asking questions, be inquisitive. And thirdly, they're highly, highly unpredictable. Buffaloes kill more people than any of the big 5 because their behavior is completely and utterly unpredictable. So, high variability, keep it in mind. Next one, systemic thinking versus analytical thinking. What is this? I'm actually asking a question. What is this? Okay. What is this? It's a remote and? It's a A comfort device. You have a strange idea of what a comfort device is, and I don't know how you gain comfort from this. Okay, so that is actually an example of systemic thinking, surprisingly. Woo, you win. The fact that it's a remote is analytical thinking. The fact that it's a remote is made of buttons, it has components, and the components and it has a battery and so forth, that is analytical thinking. Analytical thinking is sometimes useful. Systemic thinking is almost always more useful. The whole point of a systemic thinking mindset is asking the question, what is this a part of? What is the function this thing fulfills in the bigger system, the bigger scheme? So the fact that it's a comfort device for him puts him in some weird context of weird systems, but I will allow it. The reason why is the rhino. The rhino being almost close to extinction is a systemic problem. You can't stop the poachers. Stopping the poachers won't stop the problem. We all know this. You have to stop the people who actually want the rhino horn. And typically in software development, or at least the work that we do, we think very analytically. All you need to do is solve the problem in front of you. And you need to break that down into its component parts. Analytical thinking is work breakdown structure. It is work allocation. It is resource allocation. If you use the words resource allocation, you have broken the problem down into its component parts. And you wish to assign resources to the component parts, hopefully solving the problem. If you are in a highly variable system and you've just applied analytical thinking, you have painted yourself into a corner you are not yet aware of. And it's in those situations where people say, Agile fail. Agile fail because you don't have an actual systemic mindset. So when you're having conversations with your business owner on the specs and they want to break it down into component parts, which is basically they've already decided what the solution is. They just want you to break the solution down into smaller problems, smaller solutions. That is analytical thinking. What you're looking for is, give me a problem, and then let's break up the problem into smaller problems. And ask the question, what is this problem a part of? So that by the time that you actually have a small solution for a small problem, you're solving the systemic problem. So watch out for those projects that already have a solution in mind, spec'd to death, and all you need to do is implement smaller solutions. You're going to fail in interesting ways. Possibly not interesting ways. Flow efficiency. This one is fun. This one's really fun. Having the argument of whether pair programming is worth it or not is a resource efficiency argument. To say that a developer develops for 8 hours a day and thus produces 8 hours of value is a resource efficiency mindset. There is absolutely no way that a developer adds 8 hours of value in 8 hours of typing. Timesheets. Timesheets is an example of a resource efficiency mindset. All we need to do is measure the amount of time that this work was done, put a money number on that, and say that is how much value we got from the team. Code reviews, and saying code reviews are too expensive is a resource efficiency mindset. The fact that you are spending time, listen to the language. As soon as you say spending time, you're in a resource efficiency mindset. As soon as you're tracking time and assuming that time equals value, You're in a resource efficiency mindset, and you will fail in very bad ways, not even interesting ways. A better mindset is the flow mindset. In the flow mindset, you have to realize to get anything done worth doing in this day and age, you need more than one person. You in fact need more than one team. And as soon as you have more than one team, you have more than one step of transformation that a problem needs to go through to a solution. You have to focus on that instead. How can you get the problem to flow through different steps of transformation towards solution? Now, one of the things that's important to realize is in this sort of thing, what I expect from this person over here, or this person who transforms the problem into a solution, is to do that as effectively as possible. And then, when there's no more problems to solve, to stop. And to look over to that point in this process and ask, how can I make that happen next? Which basically means, often I would tell a team member, stop what you're doing, go make coffee for that guy. Go sit down next to him and help him. That is the flow mindset. I can speak for 4 hours on flow on its own, so I won't. The point why we chose the cheetah for flow, cheetah is basically sleeps most of his day. Most of his week he sleeps, just on a tree somewhere. And then every now and again, when there's something worth doing, he sprints super efficiently, most efficient killing machine on this planet, gets it done, and then sleeps a bit. Okay? Everybody believes he's efficient. Nobody is measuring him by the hour. Right. Human-centered. You have two different ways of viewing the world. And a lot of the arguments that you have with your people is about this, I can promise you now. What is the first line of the Agile Manifesto? Yeah, okay, you people really need to say that with more gusto. We're at the Agile freaking conference by now. I would have expected this to be sort of part of our DNA. The very first line of the Agile Manifesto is this, and it's a very crucially worded sentence. People and interactions. People and interactions over processes and tools. People and interactions, not people over process, which is how people usually remember that sentence. It is not people versus process. That's a false dichotomy. It's not important. People and interactions over processes and tools. Now, if you're in the processes and tools mindset, if you're in the machine-centered mindset, what you would do as an expert, as a person who has done this before, is you would create a perfect system, a perfect machine. Like we need 3 BAs, 7 developers, 2 testers, UX guy. There's my system. It is perfect. It is beautiful. It will work. All we need to do is find people to plug in. That is a machine-centered view of the world. Because if the BA fails, all we do is we replace that broken BA. We replace that broken part. We have a human resources department where we get more resources. What is the difference between a human and a resource? Resource depreciates over time. So if you want to make your humans something that you want to asset manage and actually depreciate over time, go with the machine-centered mindset. Personally, I would go with the human-centered. What is the human-centered mindset? People and interactions over the other thing. In a human-centered mindset, what you do is you put the people in the middle of the conversation. You get the people, they do the processes and tools. It means that if you have a bunch of people that all bring different perspectives to the problem, and you say, there is the problem, fix it, they will. Not, here is the perfect system, fit in. And think about all the conversations you have. I don't want to be a Java developer anymore. Yes, but unfortunately your job spec says you're a Java developer. Yeah, but my favorite job title ever, and I actually have this on the printed payslip, is Team Mascot. Team Mascot. I actually applied for a home loan with the job title of Team Mascot. They looked at me weirdly. Here is the thing. That was a very effective team. We were people first. Who happened to be architects, and who cares? We just got the work done. Okay? Elephant, because to understand an elephant is big. You can't just all stand in front of the thing and look at it. It's like, hey, it's an elephant with tusks. You have to get the people that can figure out what perspective do they need to add to this problem right now. You need to get the people to a place where they can actually be intelligent, smart human beings to self-organize around this elephant. To apparently, according to the metaphor, start eating it one bite at a time. It's a very visceral, weird image. It's okay. So you have to get the people to figure out and stand around this elephant. Okay? The spine model, the lion. Conversations need to be had about how the work works. What we typically do is processes and tools. We talk about practices and tools. We talk about how's this going to work? And that's a very machine-centered mindset again. If you start asking the question, what is it that the system needs? It all comes together in, if it's a highly variable system, what you need is people. You need a people mindset, a human-centered mindset. What you need is flow. And then, if you start there, you can start asking, what's the principles? What's the practice we're going to use? And then what tools are we going to use to get this work done? Now, the one thing about this presentation is you've all been way too quiet. So who's agreeing with me, who's violently disagreeing with me?
I'm going to disagree with you, but it's not clear before.
Okay? Okay, so I actually grew up in the bush, and I should know this, but where I grew up, there was not a thing. What sort of other languages have you seen around highly variable or low variable systems, analytical thinking, and resource efficiency? Budgets. Cost accounting. Oh, thank you for opening that one up. So here is the thing. All your organizations that use cost accounting and cost allocation and chargeback models, by its very definition, is unfortunately a resource efficient organization. Think about that. I am saying that if you use timesheets and chargebacks and charging your own department, what you are doing is you've created a machine that is resource efficient and that is optimized for hours, not optimized for flow. So why are you still doing it, people? Excellent. What could you measure instead? There's a wonderful Ackoff quote that goes like this, Russell Ackoff quote. Managers who can't measure what they want settle for wanting what they can measure. Okay? In an organization where you settle for measuring hours, you start wanting more hours. And you start having the conversation about, no, that developer is currently doing 40 hours. You can't pair him up with another developer because then he will lose 20 hours. And if you lose 20 hours, I will lose 20 hours. We here has heard of mob programming. Oh, it's spread. I like it. So why does mob programming work? Multiple people with multiple perspectives looking at the same problem, being asked to be humans, being asked to be smart, being asked to communicate a lot with each other. Mob programming, for those of you who don't know, is taking pair programming to a new level. That level being, there's one PC, one screen that big, and about 7 to 9 people. Working like that for the whole day. Now, I can't make that argument from a resource-efficient standpoint. I can't make that argument from a machine-efficient standpoint. I can absolutely make the case and the argument from a flow mindset and from a human-centered mindset. Because this is what happens in a group like that. 9 people get together around one problem and they start figuring out what needs to happen next. Not I work very hard, I BA and I BA and I BA. I sit back and I ask what needs to happen next. We need to write this line of code. I know something about that. As business analyst, I have had this conversation with the business. I know something about that. Right, so the question is software development a high variability problem all of the time? Majority of the time. Here is a little tip. If you're currently, how many people I'm going to make angry now? I hope nobody is here from an HR system, but this is the thing. If you're developing payroll systems, stop it. Stop it. It is a commodity problem. It is low variability. It is well understood. People will eat you for breakfast. The market is saturated, oversaturated. What I'm challenging you is the sort of work you want to do as a human has to be complex and interesting and highly variable. So if you're writing 20 reports tomorrow, stop it. Why are you doing that? Not all the time.
How do you make a judgment to when to apply some analytic thinking, balancing systematic thinking?
Right. I think the question is, how do you balance analytical and systemic thinking? How do you know which one to use which?
Yes.
When? Okay. First question is, what is the problem space? So how I sort of model it in my head. Might be useful for you, I don't know. You have a problem over here, and in here you have the solution space. There is a solution somewhere in this space. If you take the problem, you immediately apply analytical thinking, and you break it down into smaller solutions, you have just missed the magic point in the solution space where the actual solution is at. So that's sort of what we call premature convergence. You think you have the answer, you have the wrong answer. So what you would do is you would use systemic thinking to search the solution space. So you're using systemic thinking to ask, what is the actual problem, so that you can get to the actual solution or the actual better problem to be at. And once you're as clear as you can be about that, it's a very search the space thing, you use analytical thinking to break it down. And every now and again you will still ask, wait, are we still solving the right problem? This is the most powerful question that people don't ask enough. Are we solving the right problem? And secondly, what problem are we solving? And thirdly, what is this problem a part of? Ask those three questions and you're immediately in a systemic mindset.
If you want to know how something works, go analytic. I don't want this. If you want to know how something works, go analytic. If you want to know why it exists, go systemic.
Yes.
That's how I remember it.
So there's an interesting distinction between why and how. If you ask why, you get to the beliefs. So why does it exist? Why? We're now checking beliefs. If you're asking how, you're asking what is the behavior? How does it move? How does it actually interact? So if you really just want to unpack it, ask how. If you really want to understand why it exists and whether it should exist, ask why. Oof, headache now. Questions? Mr. Comfort.
So you want to move away from mutual systems, typically managed.
Yes.
And here's the point, middle managers are a bit of a problem in the whole organizational transition.
I don't think you said middle managers is a problem. Just, not on the record.
Can we maybe spend a minute trying to find a new title for them and define that role?
Define management.
Yeah, for a new title. We take a name for different roles. Flow facilitators, what do we want to do?
No masters. Can we just stop with the master thing? If you have a master, what do you have? I was not going there, but okay, fine. So no. Not on level. Listen, but there's the question, right? So what is the manager's job in a flow efficient system? No. It's a quick answer. So you have just hired a bunch of people who are smart. You have made them the center of the problem. You have enabled them to actually solve this problem. And now you have appointed somebody to solve the problem for them. See how that's going to go wrong? Because you've just created a machine that says the manager's job is to manage the flow in that machine. The manager's job is to get that system of humans to a place, have enabling constraints around them, call them a system, call them a team, help them understand what is the problem they are solving. Back on the spine model, this is actually what we presented at DC for a whole hour. The manager's job, the leader's job, is needs, values, and principles. That's his job. Set that. Make it very clear for the team, what is the need that you are satisfying as a team? What is it that I think you should value? What are the principles we're going to use? Principles being Agile principles, flow principles, queuing theory principles, all these things that we know make systems better. And then you step back. Step back and let the human solve the actual problem and figuring out all this. One more question, 1 minute.
Absolutely behind this. Work in a management consulting company, so we charge time and material, and
Yes.
obviously measuring input and billability.
Yes.
And I've been trying to fight this battle internally, but how do we change the mindset? How do we change because that's what our customers want. They want, timesheets and that kind of thing.
Stop calling it a battle. Stop calling it a battle. It is a mindset thing. That's a longer conversation, can't possibly answer it in 40 seconds, right? I also charge time and materials. But I ask a question every Friday. Every Friday. Is what I've done still useful for you? And if the answer is no, I leave. So that's how I get around it. Unfortunately, I have to charge time and materials, but I ask the value question once a week. And then the time and materials question goes away. in my experience. Thank you for your time. You've been a contemplative audience.
Thank you, Danie. Just a quick check. So we are officially into our lunch time.